Okay, lesson 1 of the SEP course is the endpoint product solution. Lesson 1, endpoint product solution. So the lesson objectives we're going to cover here are we're going to look at the endpoint protection as to why we're going to use it. Symantec Endpoint Protection technologies, as to looking at the protection technologies that are incorporated into the product, the services that are being utilized, the components that are within the product, how we manage the policies and concepts and overview, and also the product tiers, and some key design factors. So first we'll look at why use Symantec Endpoint Protection. Well, as all security administrators know, there's a number of threats and vulnerabilities that need to be protected against. We have many new threats being introduced every day. We have zero-day viruses we need to protect our company assets from. There are so many different problems that need to be built into the security landscape. Here we can see the security trends for 2010. From the Internet Security Threat Report, which is dated April 2011, we can see the increase of web attacks and threats that the security professionals need to protect against. Let's now look at protection technologies used within SEP 12. You can see here underneath the SEPM Protection Manager area, we have a number of different technologies that we can use. And the key thing with SEP is multi-layered. We have the standard virus spyware protection using well-known and incorporated technologies. We have the new Sonar, which is the Symantec online network for advanced response. Sonar utilizes information that's being gathered by the community-based and Symantec-based information to decide whether or not files are good or bad, looking at their usage and how long they've been available. We have the application and device control. We have firewall technologies and intrusion prevention. This all is being managed by the SEP manager. We can also see in the box below the Symantec network access control. Here the NAC, as known, is an extra product that sits nicely within the SEP environment. NAC does require an extra license to make use of it, but it is managed within the SEPM, within the SEP client feature. Here you can see all the different technologies that have been incorporated into the SEP 12. We call it the building blocks. We can go back to the SAV antivirus 10 and client security version 3. Those technologies are brought in. The Norton Insight and Download Insight and Sonar are the new technologies that are being incorporated in 12.1 as well. We can see Zygate, the Zygate products, Control, Firewall, IPS, and NAC is incorporated. And of course, our old SEP 11 versions of the antivirus, TrueScan, application device control, Firewall, IPS, and NAC is also available and supported. So let's have a look at the standard virus and spyware protection. What does it actually do for us? Well, it forms real-time auto-protect schedule and on-demand scanning, looking for viruses, worms, spyware that's going to be a threat to your business. It performs repair and remediation, and it can use this file reputation information gathered from the Symantec Insight. The Sonar uses heuristics or behavior-based to analyze whether or not a particular problem is having suspicious behavior. It doesn't rely on file signatures. It's purely behavioral. And it's there to detect those zero-day threats. The application control can block or terminate processes. It limits file and folder access. If you wish to restrict access to your history, for instance, application control can do this. monitors and protects the Windows registry, controls module and DLL loading, and blocks the unapproved applications by using something called system lockdown, we'll go into later. The device control. Here we can see we can block all sorts of different types of devices, such as USB, infrared, Bluetooth. If you want to prevent your USB drives from being accessed or being utilized in your environment, you can set down a device control that will prevent that. Firewall allows and blocks all the traffic going in and out of the set client. We can monitor for port scans, any form of denial of service attacks. And intrusion prevention. This uses the signatures, looking for packets that it recognizes to protect the set client and, of course, data be held on that. We can have custom-based signatures for this as well. And the NAC, the Network Access Control. This is where we verify and check to make sure the clients are running at a certain level that is acceptable to the security administrators. And we use a host integrity policy to control that. Let's now look at services. To enable the set client and all the protection technology to work, it relies on a number of services to be running in the background. We rely on Symantec Live Update to download the content and the delivery information to the clients to ensure protection. Symantec Insight relies on services information. This is reputation-based ratings that have been gathered by the Symantec community and deciding whether or not these files are good or to be trusted. We incorporate this in the Insight lookup and download Insight. And of course it enhances the sonar. The Symantec Security Response and DeepSight Threat Management System is also available to improve the security. Lots of good information can be found. We can see the threat on level, which is a good warning for security administrators. Let's have a look at the protection components. As I mentioned before, SEPM Manager is a very key area. The SEPM Manager is the one that manages all the data and the configuration that's been performed and all the information that's coming back from the clients. It holds it in a database. We'll talk more about the database later. There are optional components on the right. We can set up a shared Insight cache server to manage the data that's been brought in from the Insight. You could set up an internal live update server to manage the content downloads from the Symantec Live Update. And you can set up GUPS, group update providers. You may wish to set up a protection server or an IT analytics server. And a quarantine server too. So let's look at the SEP client now. The SEP client is the area that protects the endpoints. You have the details of what features have been installed as part of the package. We can see on the right-hand side of the slide the information feature set can be chosen by the security administrator when they're creating the packages. It provides the download content updates from the different sources. That could be the GUP, it could be the SEPM manager, it could be the internal live update. It uploads all the logs of the activity onto the SEPM. Provides and gets file reputation ratings from the Symantec Insight and supports the installation of product components. On the top right-hand side of the slide, we can see what the SEP client GUI looks like. We'll come back to more details about this client later. Here we have the slide showing the SEP manager, SEPM. The SEPM is the one that manages those clients, distributes the content, gather all those logs to analyze the information, to provide reports and alerts, which will possibly remotely activate certain events from that information. Post-configuration and data status to the database as well. Here we can see what the SEPM manager home screen looks like. Now, the SEPM database is a very key component to storing all the information and making it available for the security administrators. There are a number of choices when you decide on the SEPM database. With the option 1 is the internal or embedded database. That's the one that's chosen for your smaller situations, maybe less than 5,000 clients typically. Option 2 is when you choose a SQL. And, that SQL database will be residing on the SEPM manager, or it could be, as shown in option 3, on the SEPM system entirely. We can see that it stores all of the information being gathered from the clients and the configuration aspects from the SEPM itself. Let's now look at policies and concepts that we use within SEP 12.1. On the left-hand side of this screen, we can see different policies, but there's a different icon for each different policy type. We have the virus and spyware protection, the firewall, intrusion prevention, application device control, live update, and centralized exceptions. Each one of these we create a SEP policy to control your different SEP client activities. On the right side, we can see the SEP concepts that we use. We can set up groups and subgroups to partition our different clients to give them different policies. We can set different sites, and it could be multiple SEP managers or multiple databases. We can set up domains, a domain within the actual database, segregating the information information, the policies, the clients, all within so it can be completely separate. And we use locations to apply different policies based on different criteria. Each one of these come to later in more detail. So let's now look at the policies. They contain all the client protection settings. They're distributed by the SEPM, so we are able to export these policies and we can import them as well. The policy icon is the skull with red dot, and we can see again that policy list icons. Here we have the sites that I described earlier, where we've got a description of my company being the top level, and we have it separated out to North America, South America, Europe, and Asia. This is a typical international company. North America, we have one database and two SEPMs, and that's dedicated by two systems accessing the same database. Similarly in Europe, same scenario. In South America and Asia, we've just got the one database and the one SEPM. So this could be managing a large multinational company with many clients spread around the globe. So a site specifically is the database. It's not related to the SEPM, and that's a very key area to understand. You could have multiple SEPMs if they're all accessing the same database, and that is all one site. In this scenario, you can see how we can share the critical information between all different sites. The arrows indicate the fact that we're replicating the data between sites. So we could have a change of a policy occur in Europe that will then replicate across to North America, which will then push out across to Asia and South America. So the set domains could allow you to segregate different domains within the same database. It's not always used, it's not a common scenario, but it can be very useful if you're, for instance, within ISP and you need to manage 3 different companies and all their data must be kept completely separately. In other words, the administrator of company A mustn't be able to see or manage any data contained for company B or C. The domain is the way to go. Here we can see the group structure. The My Company is the default top-level group structure that will be automatically set up when you install SEPM Manager. You'll also get the default group there automatically. The subgroups Europe, Engineering, Sales, and North America, these have been created by the security administrator, so they're completely tailorable. You can customize the names, the size, the groups, etc., and subgroups. So policies can be applied at group level. So here we apply to the My Company, and we could set inheritance so that it will